Outer Orange. Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. We are here to discuss set 2 Zorga, as I've spent quite a lot of time on this deck and I'm not gonna lie, I love it. I already liked Zorga, didn't know it was possible to like Zorga more, but now I do. And gosh, I'm so happy to talk, I'm so excited to talk about this deck. I think I really found kind of like a really good way to kind of approach the list. So I'm here to talk to you guys about it. Really feel like I actually have like some insight on this deck versus some other deck profiles I've done. I really feel like I could talk about this, especially towards like match specific things. We can talk about it together here on this deck profile of Zorga set 2. So let's go and do that. So I'm back here as per tradition. I'm gonna obviously start with the Rideline, go into the normal units, and then talk about the orders. Before that, I do want to talk about the sleeves and the deck box I chose for this. So I have kept the same exact Sonata deck box. This has always been my Grand Blue / Zorga go-to deck box, as it's big enough to fit a G-Zone in here. It's big enough to fit pretty much everything you need, quick shields, Excel markers, etc. My Grand Blue go-to deck box. Now Zorga sleeves, so just to add on to the extra flair of Zorga. And then I also have the blackout sleeves. I really love these sleeves. So yeah, these are now my current Zorga sleeves. But yeah, going on in. Anyway, so we have our Rideline. So the Rideline has not changed at all. For the 0, we have our starter. Just a regular basic overdress starter. For the 2, we still have Vanguard chain. I mean, for the grade 1, we still have Vanguard chain. It's still necessary. You still need it. It lets you on Vanguard circle draw the Soul Blast 1, draw 2, discard 1 if it's in order. If not, you got to discard 2. Chances are you'll get your orders, so you'll discard the order. And then we have the grade 2, which just pluses you. It says when placed, you may bring an order back to hand. So if you discard an order, you can just bring it back, negating your discards pretty much. Grade 3 is of course Zorga himself. This is our boy, our lad of the hour. This is our Alchemagic guy. His main skill is that you can Alchemagic take 2 orders, one from your hand and one from the drop, and you can use those skills together. His other skill is Counterblast. You can call a rear guard. And this Rideline will probably be like this for a while, honestly. I don't see this Rideline changing anytime soon. I'm pretty sure this Rideline is staying for a while, as it just pluses you more than it negates you. And unless we get something even better than this is probably the Rideline that Zorga will be going for a hot second. Our main Rideline, as we talk about units, we can, go interact back with the Rideline. But let's talk about our grade 3s. So our grade 3s, the last of the Zorga copies, I'll put them right here. So this is Zorga. You want the Persona Ride. It's a mechanic in overdress that you want to get to. So you definitely want to have all 4 copies of this. You don't want to cut back on this. Don't do any of that. Persona Ride is very important, especially in a deck that attacks 3 times, but has 3 very lethal attacks. You want to make sure you see this as much as possible. So you definitely want to have all copies of him. And then I also run a Hydraulic Ram Dragon. This is a common. Its skill is when it attacks a Vanguard, if you have a order in your bind zone from off of your Zorga skill, then you will get an extra additional 5k, which makes this an 18k attacking rear guard pretty much from the start, as long as the Alchemagic waste once. The reason why I run this card is literally for prison. Prison, you just tell them, hey, like if they say, hey, imprison something from hand, and this is in your hand because you're gonna mulligan for it probably, you just imprison this instead, and now you can just keep calling this out as your main target. And even if they negate the 5k, it literally gains 5k to its own, so it's always gonna be a 13 attacking rear guard. So I literally just play it for just the prison matchup, so prison is pretty decent against Zorga, and I feel like this kind of helps with dealing with that matchup a lot better. So I run this literally for that. It's also just a nice like extra number, but it's not like mandatory. This, you can easily take this in and out. Right now I have it in for prison. In the future I may take it out. That's the fun of Zorga, is that you can adapt to the meta pretty well. So this is a one of, I should probably mention, my deck is more focused on being able to rush but still being able to Alchemagic. So the way I ran it is like you're able to have a grade 2 turn and a grade 1 turn, but you're also able to Alchemagic and kind of do what you need to do and end with the Shark, which we'll be discussing here in a second. So I ran 4 of the Intelligence Maiden Hadrina. This card is like amazing, and I'll kind of go into this card like a couple times here. You definitely need 4 copies of this, especially if you want to negate your Soul Blast as much as possible for your future Shark. Shark requires a Soul Blast. This will pretty much have all your soul be free. Its skill says it has a couple options here, but its skill says that you can retire it to negate Soul Blast when you Alchemy Magic, which is amazing because it negates all Soul Blast. So if you even have to Soul Blast like 5 billion times, it doesn't matter. She just negates it as long as you retire her. Her other skill is on place you mill 3 cards, which is extremely important in this deck. We'll kind of talk about this a little bit later. In set 1, this wasn't as important. Like milling was important, but it wasn't as important. In set 2, it's way more important. You want to mill as quickly as possible. You want to spam your Hadroons as much as possible. But it's okay. Even if you miss this, you do have other ways to kind of go around it. Just keep caution of your soul. This deck is super resource reliant. You want to make sure if you're using your soul, use it in the most optimal way possible, and that's where you will shine with Zorga in general. If you can optimize your resources, you're gonna have a really good time. But going on in, I do run 2 of the Husk Dragon. This is Black Tears Husk Dragon. This guy's the same guy that we have in our Rideline. As a rear guard, he gets 5k if you play in order this turn, which is really good. He's pretty much a 15k attacker all the time. And a reason why I want extra is literally just for that extra rush. You can put him on the board and then put your Hadrina on the board and like have like a Vanguard in the middle and just have a really nice turn. And if you were to use an order on your grade 2 turn, then you'll have even bigger numbers. And this with some other cards just synergizes extremely well. And I used to not run this at more than 1 copy, but now I think it's kind of necessary. We'll kind of talk about more like why these columns and stuff just get so good with Husk Dragon and a couple other things. But last but not least, with our grade 2, we of course run the Fleet Swallower, or as I just call it, just straight up Shark. His name is just Shark. It's really good. You optimize this card right here really well, you're gonna have the time of your life. If you know you're playing Zorga well when the only time you Soul Blast is just for this card, because this should be the only card you ever Soul Blast for unless you literally don't have Hadrina. If you want to make sure you optimize your deck so well that you will always be able to Soul Blast with Shark. That's kind of like the goal here. But Shark's skill says when this unit attacks, if you Alchemy Magic this turn, you can Soul Blast, and your opponent, you have 5k, and your opponent has to guard with 2 cards. Why is this so important? It sounds like just like a generic, like just a little like guard restrict, right? It's incredibly important because the reason why Zorga was not great in set 1 was because you had 3 attacking rear guards in a game that has perfect guards that you can use as a 1 card. So if you have 2 or less cards in hand, your perfect guard just goes off as 1 card, and usually when you perfect guard, you have to guard with 2 cards. But if it's your last card or second to last card in hand, you can actually just perfect guard and then perfect guard again. You can have 2 perfect guards for pretty much for free. But this card says no. This card says you have to guard with 2 cards. And what's really nice about this, if your person were to perfect guard, they actually have to drop 3 cards for it. Why is this so important? Because this is kind of like almost a 4th attack, because you'll usually stack your crits and everything on this. You'll give it really high numbers, and if your opponent is down to their last like 2 or 3 cards, they're probably gonna die to this. They will die to the Shark, and that's why this card's super good. But you want to make sure you have the Soul Blast for this. If you miss the Soul Blast, you're not going to be able to do this. And so you really want to optimize when you want to put your Shark out. Sometimes you don't even have to do it. It is a cost. So you don't have, it's not mandatory, so you can choose to do this. You can literally put Shark out and just not do it to scare your opponent if you really want to. But just keep in mind your soul, that's super important, as like I said, you only have so much soul, so you want to make sure you utilize this to make sure you get to that soul condition, so that way you can use this as much as possible. I'm telling you, in set 1 it was hard, but in set 2 we don't care about perfect guards. Going into our grade 1, speaking of perfect guards, we of course run 4 of the Planet Prevent Dragon. This is the set 1 perfect guard. Pretty much it says if you're holding 2 or less cards, you can just use one of these. You don't have to discard for the cost, because the cost is you discard a card with it. You don't have to. And the only other grade 1 I run in my deck is Rogue Headhunter. At 4 copies, this card is brilliant. The more I use this card, the more I like it. You definitely want 4 of this card. It is pretty much almost always a 13k attacker, and on your grade 2 turn, you can actually call this out early and use that skill of it as well. Like you can have this with your Husk Dragon. You can make a 28k column really early on and really push your opponent like really fast. On top of that fact, so that's its first skill is literally if you play an order, it gets 5k, but it has a second skill. It says when placed, if you were to counterblast for your Alchemy Magic, you just don't, and it does reduce it by 1. But and correct me if you're wrong, but I'm pretty sure if you place 2 down, then it stacks on top of each other, so you can not counterblast twice. But I'm pretty sure I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it stacks. I didn't think it did, but someone else told me it. They think it stacks. But that could be answered the questions. But regardless, you do negate counterblast with this, which is amazing, as we do have orders that use counterblast. This says screw that. You don't have to worry about it as long as you Alchemy Magic. A 13k booster. It's another 5k. It's yet another magic number that makes your opponent cry. high. So you want to have that. But this is our normal units. Along with that, we also have our order cards. So let's go and talk about our order cards. Of course, we run Grief, Despair, and Rejection. This card has yet to be bad. This card is still amazing, and I think 3 is a good spot. Pretty much the skill says you play with the Counter Blast, you give 10k to 3 units. Usually it'll be your front row units. If it's not, you can, you know, put it on a booster. You can put it anywhere. You just put 10k wherever you want. It's pretty much a pseudo Persona ride. You can't go wrong with using this card. If you're on your final push turn with your Shark, if you just want to aggro your opponent, whatever you want to do, this will give you magic numbers. It'll make your Hydraulic Dragon stronger. It just makes everything better. Like, it makes your stuff hit too. So say you do miss your Persona ride and you have a lonely Hadrina or a lonely Husk Dragon with just a 10k and you can't even Alchemy Magic, or you say you only have the order and you can't do much else, you can just use this and now everything attacks. Now everything has something, and trust me, that one attack can make a huge difference. And then going on in, I run 1 of Regurgitation from the Underworld. This card, some people might be like, why are you only running at 1? This card is really weird depending on the matchups you're in. So like if you're facing Bastion, that's another reason actually why I run this card. I run this card for Bastion as well. In case I really need to get rid of something on that board, I could do that with this. But anyway, what I'm getting at is if you're facing first of all, this card forces you to rely on what's on your opponent's side. It relies on your side too, but you usually don't want to retire on your side. You usually want to retire on your opponent's side. Sometimes your board's too flooded, sure, go for it. But 9 out of 10 times you want to get this card. I use this to just pop things off I don't like. If there's just something I don't like on my opponent's board, a Leonard, a grade 1, just anything that gives potential or it just adds more flavor to their game that I don't want there, I just call this card out and I say, hey, yeah, that card that I don't like, it's gone. And then what's nice about this, with the cost of a Counter Blast and a Soul Blast, you retire one of theirs, and then for what the grade you retired for them, you can call it out. And if you Alchemy Magic, you can call it 2. So you can call it 2 grade 2s, 2 grade 1s, 2 grade 0s, 2 grade 3s, whatever it is. If you Alchemy Magic, you call 2. And like I said, that's kind of where I have like issues with the card. Sometimes you already have a grade 2 on the board, or you already have a grade 1 on the board, and it just can be kind of awkward. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, put 2 grade 3s down, and you don't have to. You can call up to 2, but it still can kind of be some kind of awkward situations, and that's why I run it at 1. This is just my edge case. I see it, I'll use it. I don't care. It doesn't change my overall game plan. It is a Soul Blast 2, which is something that can cause problems, you know, because you want to make sure you only Soul Blast with this. So you don't want to rely on this card too much, as if you do, then you miss Hadrina, then you can't use this, and then you can't use this, and it just kind of starts a lot of problems. So I just keep it at literally 1. I think it's perfect at 1. I don't think it needs to go up. At least for right now, I think it's solid. And trust me, I like the card. I think it's good. I just don't think it's a 3 of. Next for our grade 2 order, we have Nectar of Sensationalism. I actually really wish I could put this at 2, but I just can't. But this card is really strong. It actually makes pretty much the Shark and the Husk and just everything here just better. Its skill is you just play it. You give a rear guard power based off your drop. If you have 15 or more cards in your drop, you gain an extra crit, and you get 5. You get pretty much 5 plus 5,000 for every 5 in your drop. And then after the 15, you get a crit. And some people may be like, oh, well, how are you gonna get to that Mulligan condition? Well, don't you worry. There's plenty of cards to make that happen. And it sounds like you're never gonna get there, but you actually get there pretty fast. And then what you do is you take this crit and you take this power and you just put it on your Shark that has the guard restrict, and your opponent's like, all right, GG. So next order is Spiritual Body Condensation. I run it at 3 as well. This card is still really good, and this card synchronizing with our GDR up here just makes it even better. With the cost of a Soul Blast, you revive a unit and it gets 5k, and then you can go in with Alchemy Magic with this card over here and then give another 10k on top of that. So it's just really solid. You just can't go wrong with this combination. It's just too good. You can call out your Shark, your Husk, your Hadrina, your grade 3, whatever you want. You call it out, it's yours. Have a party. Last but not least, this is a grade 0 actually. It's Wild Intelligence. And this card may seem bad, but it's actually really good at Zorga. I at first was judging myself if I wanted to put this in, and I was like, screw it, I think this card's gonna work, and I put it in, and it has yet to fail me. It has 100% has always helped me in whatever situation I'm in. Its skill is very simple. You Counter Blast 1, so you can do this on your grade 2 turn if you want. You can start your mills early. This is what I like about this card, is you can early mill. This is a grade 2, you have to wait, you know, you kind of have to wait in some situations, but this is like a guaranteed, you can just start it. But you discard 3 cards, and then you just call a card out. If you're Magnolia, you call 2, but we're not Magnolia, we're Zorga, you call 1. And what's really nice is you just call whatever you want. The important part about this card is really the mill. There are situations where sometimes you have a really awful drop zone, and this card would be like, you know what, let's fix that. Let's not have an awful drop zone, just like Hadrina fixes that. But if I could run 8 Hadrina, I would, but I don't have Hadrina. I don't have 8 Hadrina, I have 4 Hadrina. So this is just 2 more Hadrinas to push for my deck to be even faster at its milling, so it can reach this condition, so it can go into this. So you know what I mean? We kind of have like a synergy going on here. Nice little synergy. But yeah, so I love this card. It's a free call with a counterblast, and especially if you use it, you know, with our headhunter back here, it's free. So you can really synchronize it pretty well. It's a counterblast. It sounds painful, but it's not. This deck does not care about counterblast or soul blast that much. Unless you're playing against prison, you're not gonna have a problem. So this card's solid. It's a solid 3 mil free call. Great card. I keep it at 2 because I do think this card's slightly better, just because, you know, it's an extra 5k, but this gives you the mill. So you have to kind of choose like what you want to go through. Both of these cards let you call cards out. One gives you 5k, one gives you a mill. So you kind of have to make a decision, like which. So usually my biggest decision is what I want to go into early game, because early game I can choose this or I can choose this, and honestly it just depends on what you need. If your drop zone sucks, go into this. If your drop zone's good, go into this. Have that extra 5k, because then it makes your Husk better, makes your headhunter better, makes everything better. And then that's it. I want to talk about triggers. So let's talk about our triggers. Of course, we have our over trigger. This is the Stoic over trigger. This card's just stupid. You draw twice, you heal no matter what. You get 10k power. You get something 1,000,000, and you gain a crits. You know, why wouldn't you want to run this? Like, and especially since this Zorga usually attacks first, this card just gets even better, as you're rarely attacking with your rear guards first. You're usually going Vanguard first and then rears. So this card's just amazing. And then we run, of course, we have our 4 heals. Here they are. Yeah, heal triggers are just important. You need them. So 4 heals because they're just necessary. Going on in, I run 4 fronts. You can choose. This is up to you. If you want to run like 1 extra crit instead of a front. I really like the fronts, especially with the way this deck functions now, with how you have a really aggressive shark, and really you want to, the faster you make your rear guard stronger. So like so usually we'll have a rear guard here and a rear guard here. You want to make sure one rear guard is a shark and one rear guard is something else. But you want to make sure that other something else is so lethal that your opponent has to take it, pushing them like 4 or 5. So that way your shark is even more deadly. So there's my crits. I run currently 7 crits. I'm a big crit person. I actually would prefer 8, but I actually think because the fronts are just so good, you can, and especially I haven't talked about this, but now these particular fronts say that if your opponent is grade 3 or greater, you can actually guard with 20k. So these are actually 20k, and I just think this value is too good. It's 80k guard. If you have all 4 in hand, you're kind of set. Like, you're gonna survive pretty much everything if you have all 4 in hand. And if you don't have them in hand and you see them in drive check, you just there's nothing bad here. In both situations, this card's good. If you end it defensively, cool. Now they can't target your Hadrina. Like, there's literally like in so many ways the fronts just plus you. I actually used to run draws. I used to think draws were important, and then I kind of realized that they're not as great as I want them to be. They're really good ditch cards, you know, if you want to ditch them for your Rideline, but honestly, I think this is just the ideal lineup. And then if you want to add like more aggression towards fronts or more aggression towards the crits, that's kind of up to the opponent at that point. But I think just having fronts, crits, heals, and the over trigger is definitely, I don't think you need the rainbow trigger or anything like that. I think it's fine just the way it is. But let me show you guys some like kind of like situations that you may want to utilize, like some brush turns and all that stuff. So let's go in and do that. All right, so I'm kind of back here with my 5 cards, and I already mulliganed. I dropped a order, and I ended up just getting a shark in return. And yeah, this is kind of our hand here. We're trying to start out. I'm just gonna show you guys kind of like some early stuff you could do. If you're going second, if you're going first, you don't have to worry about as much. But if you're going second, so you're gonna ditch you're probably gonna ditch your shark because you don't want your shark there, and your draw, and then you're gonna do the skill Soul Blast, draw 2. And drop an order. So we'll drop this order right here. It's the only order we have. And then on this turn, you can actually double down, or you can go 1. But you can start rushing even early on. You can do something like this. You can choose to do 1, or you can choose to do 2 if you really want to aggro him. Like if you're going against Bear Magnus or something, you just want to push him all the max, or Bastion is a good example. You may want to do something like this. You want to rush him early. You can choose to not go like super aggro, just only go 1. But this is just something you can just utilize. So you can push this, and then you push here, and then you drive check, and you get like whatever it is that you need. By the way, best card ever. And then you pass the turn to them. And if they attack at you, if you really just want to use this, you can actually let them give you the damage. So like say they do give you the damage, you put your all fix. It's now your turn, you draw. You're going to drop something. We're just going to drop this. Pick it back up. Now here comes the fun part. At least we're going to hope it's the fun part. So we're going to move this guy down. This is after, you know, our little rush play. And then you're going to pretty much just go on into your boy right here, your Wild Intelligence. You're going to counterblast, mill 3. and call something out. In this situation, we can only call a shark out, but it's still better than nothing. So you're gonna call your shark out, and now keep in mind, because you use an order, this actually gains 5k. If normally the ideal play is Husk, but it's okay. And sometimes if you have like an early Hadrina, you can even do that too. So that's something you could do. And what's really nice is you can actually put your shark here, move this up, and you can actually call this back here, and now this has 5k, and now you have this will be at 13k, this will be at 23, and this will be 10. So you can actually, you know, already start pressuring your opponent even further. Yeah, and we're still rushing them here, right? So you can go 13, then go at 10, get your drive check. Oh, it's a crit. Paul effects here. Now this is swinging for 33. Sorry, 23, yeah, 33, and they have to, you know, figure their life out in that situation. And this is kind of like an early rush that you can do. And I'm not saying you have to do it every single time, or that's something you want to look for, but it's something to keep in mind that you're capable of doing, even with your numbers being like as they are. This is why I really like Wild Intelligence, because it literally lets you have that early rush no matter what. And you don't, and it's only a Counter Blast, and you won't use your Counter Blast too much anyway, so it won't even matter. And it mills you, so it literally gets your deck, your drop zone set up as quickly as possible. Now you're kind of at the point where your opponent's at like 4 or 5 damage, and it's about to be your turn, and you just want to end their life. Well, let's do that. Let's end their life. But we'll pretend they have like 4 or 5 cards or something. So we're gonna draw. We're gonna get our Persona Ride here. So you get Persona Ride, you draw. Even if you don't have your Persona Ride, you're fine. And now you can do some pretty fun stuff here. So we can move this guy down. And by the way, you need this like right here. So we have our Nectar ready. We're ready to like secure some death here. And now we just want to just push it as far as we can. I'm actually gonna call Hadrina here and do the mill. Hopefully we don't land an overtrigger. That'd be really funny. Oh, there it is. There's the overtrigger. Doesn't matter. We'll be fine even without it. So we can actually do like a couple things here. So I actually like the route of having 3 Rogue Hunters in the back. So I actually counterblast with Zorga's skill, and let's get that boy out here. Like, you have this pretty board ready. You know, you got your boys back. You did all your stuff. So now what you can do is you can actually Alchemagic in. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to use Nectar's skill. So let's see how much we have one. We're going to use Nectar and give everything here. So this is our shark right now, plus 15. And then since we use this from drop, he can go here, this goes here, and that's that. And now you have a ready to go board. Look at this board. So keep in mind your columns here. You have 21, 31, 41. This is 46. The side column is 18, 28, 38, 43. The shark is 18, 28, 38, 48, 53, and then plus his own skill, it's going to be a 58 attacking column with a guard restrict. And keep in mind, your opponent is like at 4 or 5 damage here. And you have the crit on here too. There is a crit active from Nectar on top of everything else. So at this point, in order to just end your opponent's life, you pretty much just swing straight in, and they're going to guard it or no guard it, whatever it is. You're going to drive check. We actually landed nothing, but if you did land something, you just put everything here. You just put everything on your shark, and you just call it a day. Then you're going to probably swing here, depending on how high their damage is or what's going on. They're either going to take it or leave it, and then your final turn will be your shark. You'll Soul Blast, make your shark even more lethal, and your opponent will either die or they'll have just enough to guard it, depending on their situation. You can also just push your opponent. You don't even need to go shark, so you can actually call out your husks instead. If you just want to stay safe and stuff like that, you can actually go double husk. Your husks will have 5k power on top of them, so when you're swinging with them, these numbers will just be also pretty nice. So that is pretty much the whole deck. Being cautious of like how you use your Alchemagic and all that stuff, but honestly, that's pretty much the full deck, guys. There is definitely some optimal plays, like things you have to be cautious of how you land into your orders and what you do. But for the most part, even if you don't land your orders, you can just beat your opponent's face by you can revive something with your Zorga and just beat face anyway, and just kind of go down that route, whatever like works for you. But honestly, I think this deck is a lot better than I feel like people have been giving it credit for. I know some people are probably going to question why I don't run this order right here. This is Cursed Souls, Squirming in Agony. I hate this card. I'm just gonna be straight up with you guys. I hate this card. I don't like this card. There's nothing that I like about this card, because what really sucks about it is that in case you have to rely on Hadrina so much for this card to be run, and I would rather just rely on getting my shark plays to go off than have this card exist. I didn't like this card in set 1, and I don't like it in set 2. Maybe in the future this card will be better if there's ways to just kind of get some soul going in your Zorga list, but I don't think that's really ever gonna be a thing. There might be some like awkward soul charging here and there you can do, but I don't think it'll ever be like a main goal. But I just don't like this card. In case you miss your Hadrina, you have to Soul Blast 2, which means your shark play is just gone, because you Soul Blast this for the skill, for this skill, and then that's leaving you with only 2 soul. And then if you Soul Blast these out with Agony, then you can't do shark anymore unless you Persona Ride. And I just don't think that's worth it by any means necessary. And I'm talking about this card because I know some people will probably be like, oh, but Agony. Well, here's my oh, but Agony. No agony, no agony. You don't need agony to do what you gotta do. I know some people will say, but you can replenish your board, but your numbers will be fine. That's what GDR is for. That's what your condensation is for. That's what your persona rides are for. That's what your headhunters are for. They gain 5k on their own. There's so much this gains too. Like there's so many other cards that will give you numbers anyway that you really don't need this extra stack. Like I have trouble. Another card I want to talk about, and this card's a little bit better in my opinion, is the overcoming the Unnatural Death. This card, pretty much you bind it and you pick up 2 orders. I actually think this card's kind of good. I just have trouble fitting it with what I'm trying to accomplish here. If I was going for a less rush type of build, I would put this in. This card pretty much just lets you not brick your orders. It lets you get orders, which is something that my deck currently actually does lack of. If you don't get an order in your hand in time and stuff like that, you could be in situations where you have kind of like a vanilla turn. It's not common, but it can happen. And I personally just play it out. I'll just attack the rear guards. I'll just do something else. I'll just wait it out, and usually I'll be okay. As I don't use my hand anyway, so usually I'm fine. But I think this card in the future will probably be more useful if I start seeing that Zorga's hand gets depleted faster. I do think this card's good though. I think running this isn't a bad idea. I'm just not a big fan. I took Ghost Chase out. The reason why I took Ghost Chase out is because I actually don't have Cursed Agony in here. I feel like if you don't run if you don't run Agony, you don't need Ghost Chase, as you're not going to be relying on calling random triggers or over triggers, whatever it is, to the board. I think Ghost Chase is a little too slow. I think the rush is just more important, and running orders that will help you win the game faster is more important than relying on the fact that you can bounce something back and have an extra 5k. But I think for perfect guard reasons, like, you know, getting a perfect guard out and using it, I think this is good. However, Prison is doing pretty well right now, and I just think Ghost Chase is dead against matches like Prison, matches that can wipe your board in any form. I think this card dies, and I would rather not be in that situation where I'm vulnerable to, oh, I'm gonna set up this board and then my opponent's just gonna pop it off. All right, so I'm back here on my main screen. I hope you guys like this deck profile. I'm still testing. I'm always testing, and I will just continue to say this. There's always something that I want to improve. However, I do think that this is the first time in a while where I feel like I created a list that I don't want to change. I'm actually pretty satisfied with the way this list runs. I've had a lot of success with this so far, so I kind of like it where it is. And I think with set 2 being, it's gonna be a while until we get set 3 or get anything that's like, you know, gonna upgrade our decks for a while. But on that, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this profile. I hope it helps you in your Zorga building. I know my set 1 Zorga deck was a little bit rougher because I had a hard time really figuring out how to make that deck functional, aside from like just aggro rushing your opponent to their death. Like I feel like that was the only way to really succeed with old Zorga. But I think set 2 Zorga is like in a really good spot actually. I know a lot of people probably not agree with me on this, but I actually really like it. I think it just really depends on how you play it out and how you set yourself up. I think Zorga is very capable of succeeding as long as you know how to set up your board and how to get yourself ready for anything. You really gotta know your matchups. I say this a lot. The Grand Blue in general is all about matchups. Like you're more concerned about what your opponent's doing than what you're doing. You're just setting up your stuff to kill, but you're more focused on what your opponent's up to in order to secure your kill. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, thank you so much for all the support. I hope you guys like the Zorga profile. I hope it helps you in your Zorga deck building. But in that, guys, it's been real, it's been fun, it's peace out time and das vidanya time. Until next time, you know, the usual. And I'll see you guys next time. If hopefully in a future video, something probably OuterOrange related. If not, it's gonna be Card Fair Vanguard related. I don't know, we'll find out. But in that, it's peace out, das vidanya, and bye.